All right, it's 7 o'clock, and this is Free the People. Welcome, everybody, to Free the People. This is Alaska's Common Law Show, and we get together every single week, every Wednesday night at about 7 o'clock Alaska time, and we teach one another our rights and our duties and how to help one another stand up. Tonight is about parental rights, and we have a special guest who's never been on our show before. And I will introduce her in a few moments, but I want to first set the stage properly in order that you're looking at the information being presented here tonight from the proper perspective. Because when certain agencies start to get involved and trespass the peaceful enjoyment of our lives, we begin to lose perspective and become kind of indoctrinated into their perspective. And that's when you begin to lose your rights. When you begin to be fearful, when you forget who you are as one of the people of Alaska, otherwise called an Alaskan. You've got to know your rights or you've lost them. And so I want to read to you just a really short, and I'm real sorry if I'm cutting out at all, but I want to read to everybody a very short part of a Supreme Court decision called United States versus Johnson. And it's about your rights. Only belligerents have rights. And it's Federal District Court Judge James Alger Fee ruled that, and he said that, the privilege against self-incrimination is neither accorded to the passive resistant, nor to the person who is ignorant of his rights, nor to one indifferent thereto. It is a fighting clause. Again, really quick, think about the Fifth Amendment and your right to be. So I'll just pick up from where I left off. Basically, your right to be free from self-incrimination can't be claimed for you by an attorney or a solicitor. It's valid only when insisted upon by a belligerent claimant in person. The one who is persuaded by honeyed words or moral suasion to testify or produce documents rather than make a last-ditch stand simply loses the protection. He must refuse to answer or produce and test the matter in contempt proceedings or by habeas corpus. And very few people I know of have ever heard that's really a decision from the court, that this is how we maintain our rights. The other thing I want to say in setting up this information is that family matters are private. You do, as one of the people of the state of Alaska, you have the unlimited right to contract. The law of contract has 8 specific characteristics, and I'm not going to go through those now, but a couple of them are that any agreement you enter into has to be mutually beneficial, and there has to be full disclosure, a meeting of the minds. So if there's an OCS safety plan, that's an agreement that you have entered into.
Robert Van Buskirk in Alaska.
Thanks for coming in. We're moving along and setting the stage, so we'll go back through and you can listen to it on the YouTube video. Anyway, if it's an OCS safety plan, that has to abide by all the 8 characteristics of a contract in order for it to be a valid contract. Was your safety plan done with full disclosure? Was and is there a mutual benefit to your family? Is it benefiting your family as much as it was benefiting the OCS? So if you kind of look at the conversation with some of those ideas in mind. That's what I just did. You're right. Okay. So what was that?
Said I had no problem getting in. I just dialed in and got right in.
Well, I got in, but then it got put me on hold. It was just all dead quiet.
Okay, well, we're rolling, and so I just want to introduce Catherine and let her tell us what she's doing as far as this process goes. Catherine is a real estate agent. She's organized statewide, Anchorage-wide, and local conferences, conventions, and events. Also worked as a computer contractor for 20 years in database design, development, documentation, and training, and she worked for various governmental agencies where she learned that blocks of numbers are more important to government than individual stories. And I think that's going to really help people as they're dealing with OCS issues and as well as any other state agency issues. So, Catherine, are you there and can you hear me? And
I'm here and I can hear you, and I have our client information collection sheet in front of me.
All right, awesome. Tell us about what you're doing, and maybe a little bit before you start on the worksheets, tell us a little bit about how you got involved in this, if you can.
Okay, there are people in the Mat-Su Borough who ask that I participate in efforts like testimony before governmental boards and items of that nature because I understand how government works, and having worked in government as a contractor for a large part of my life. And the most important thing, I guess I should tell you that I got invited to do this because of my reputation for interacting with government successfully. And so the person who started People of Alaska called me and said, "We need help, will you help?" And I said, in a limited way, yes. And now it's a lot more than limited, according to my husband. So what we did was we gathered the stories of various Alaskans who have had to deal with OCS. And in 16 days, we collected 16 stories. And once I had read those stories, I was unable to stop because of the problems OCS is causing by taking families and separating them. So the first thing we did was just read those stories, and I will tell you that I cried a lot. Then we decided that we would try and interact with the commissioner of HSS or HHS, depending upon whom you're speaking with, Health and Human Services. He's the commissioner, and he said, "Beth, we know that Catherine, we know there's this problem out here." And I said, "Well, here's what you need to do. You need to have OCS do the administrative stuff so that they stay compliant with state and federal law, and have social workers who are trained in familial safety issues and matters, and so those folks should be handling the investigations and casework." And the commissioner looked at me and he said, "That might work." So our biggest goal is to get OCS out of investigations. There is not one employee there is not one caseworker who is a degreed social worker or even a certified anything. They do not have degrees, and they are not certified in anything. So there are no certifications, no degrees until they get into OCS and experience OCS training. That is not their fault. The problem is they don't understand the forms that they're supposed to fill out. The reason I know this is that an organization did an analysis of one family's 10-year experience of being torn apart. And that is a 56-page document written up after the analysis of the case by a social worker. What I did is I took all the problems, which cover every problem that I've seen in any of the case files that were sent to us, and it says, "Have you been treated this way?" Today, we met with one of the Alaska legislative senators, and we told him our plan, and he said, well, I can't do this one case at a time. We have to do a major overhaul, and in order to do that, we need to have numbers indicating how many people did not receive a FRAN, how many people did not have a visitation plan and training for those visitations. They did not have a visitation preparation, which explains how to make the first visit and ongoing visits easier for both the parents and the children. And then not everybody got a China. They never had one of those, which is a child in need of assistance report. As far as assisted services, OCS is supposed to provide the clients with a list of outside services that could or would assist the parents in their home. They're also supposed to help, and then we need to know whether or not the parents took advantage of those assistive services, and we're finding out that many of them have not because they can't afford it. So that's another problem we have here. And then frequently the parents are advised, one parent is advised to to accuse the other parent of assault or domestic violence or something of that nature so that they can keep their children, which we all know doesn't happen once you have domestic violence on your record. And they also will suggest a divorce so that one parent can keep the children, which doesn't happen after the divorce. And if there is a physical problem with the child, they're supposed to contact the child's medical providers, which hasn't happened in a lot of cases. Just one foster parent says your child is lactose intolerant, so they're not getting any more milk or cheese or ice cream. And then the final question was, how often have you reviewed your child's and or your spouse partner's case file? How often do you do that? And in many cases, they have never even seen their case file. They only see what the caseworker provides them. Those issues are all totally against the purposes for OCS. They are against the policies and procedures. And the fact of the matter was that the social worker said these people don't even know how to fill out the future risk of abuse and neglect reports, or FRANs, as they're called. So forms are filled out inappropriately. Recommendations for keeping your children are inappropriate. But we know this goes on, but we have no written proof that OCS is not performing as required. Some people have said that this form that we've put out is too personal. And once I explained to them that government doesn't work off of individual problems, they work off of large numbers of instances of abuse of their authority. So we had that confirmed today when we met with the senator, one of the senators from the Matsu borough. And he directly told one of the clients that his case is very sad and very hard. But to affect change, they have to see a pattern of consistent wrongdoing and inappropriate and non-compliant activity. So this was our effort to have all of the people who work with OCS fill out this form and let me send them 70 people who never received a visitation plan and training. 70 people who never received the visitation preparation, the public services reports, the PSRs that talk about the assistive folks, they aren't filling them out, or they don't express the parents' view of what happened. All of these things need to be put into numeric values as affecting real people with real numbers of parents affected and real numbers of children. That is the only thing they want. Yes.
I just wanted to stop you for a quick moment and just interject that Tammy Wilson in 2017 went to Matsu, Juneau, Kenai, Anchorage, Bethel, Fairbanks, and Kodiak. I guess the Kodiak testimony was canceled, but she gathered hours and hours and hours and hours of testimony from people in all of those areas saying what had happened to them and chronicling all that abuse. That's available on the state archives.
I understand that Representative Wilson did that, and I paid attention while she was doing it. And I was so dismayed when she tried to have a grand jury look into that testimony, and the grand jury said, no, that's the job of the ombudsman. And she went to the ombudsman, and the ombudsman said, no, that's the job of a grand jury. And at that point, there was a dead spot that she couldn't go beyond. And so then the ombudsman put out a report, which is available publicly on the ombudsman's page in the state's website. And it basically said, yes, there are these problems and they could be remedied in this way, but no action was taken. And that's why Tammy Wilson was not able to take it any further. And she's the one who brought our awareness up regarding this issue, and she did a marvelous job. Unfortunately,
Absolutely.
Pardon me?
Absolutely, she did. She did a great thing by getting these recorded. But I want to hear where you're going next and how come all of this testimony is being completely disregarded by the state of Alaska.
Well, the state of Alaska, I don't know who has that testimony. I mean, does Tammy just have it? Is it only in OCS? I've never been directed to the verbal testimony, but
I'll send you the link, and you can go in and listen to it yourself. You can download it yourself, and I'll send that out to anybody who asks me for it. And if you can't get a hold of me, and you're listening to this recording later, call Tammy's legislative office and just ask Barbara to send you the link, and Barbara will send it directly out to you. Go ahead.
Has Tammy's testimony been quantified? Because it happened in 2016, so I know that was only 3 years ago, but now they want current information where this is currently continuing on. They have no knowledge as to whether the same problems exist or not at this time.
Okay. Let's follow all the way through with what you're doing, and then I'll interject some of my ideas afterwards.
So we've put out a request on People of Alaska for people to fill out these forms so that we can quantify it and have government have valid information about how many people this is happening to and the frequency of each area that is not effectively helping our families. One of the largest mandates that is a part of an OCS organization nationally is that they should look for extended family members who would be willing to take the children while the parents meet the requirements for them to have their children back. Totally counter to that, OCS takes the children and also goes and gets the children from their grandparents and their aunts and all kinds of people that are in their cousins, whatever, that have appropriate homes. And then again, as was noted in the 53-page or 56-page analysis by the family social worker, was that that goal is no longer even being considered by OCS.
What?
Are you still with us, Catherine? Okay.
I'm still here, but I'm not. That's all I have to say is we have to quantify this for them because they are not getting the numbers, the occasional complaints that they are filed against OCS. They aren't getting that information at the upper governmental level.
Okay. And for some reason, neither a grand jury nor the ombudsman will take this any further.
We don't know that at this point, but we do know that we've had two families, one family totally reunited, and another family, the family who the social worker documented the problems for, that family is being dealt with at this time. And our meeting today included another family member who explained his experiences to the senator this afternoon.
Okay, and so it's the senator himself that's taking care of these issues, or what's the mechanism at the state level to do this?
At the state level, they need they need the numbers. He made it very clear that the numbers were far more important than the individual testimonies and written experiences, and that he also needed 5 clear steps to correcting the problem. And so this evening we documented the 5 clear steps, and it's been sent to the leaders of People of Alaska to review before we send it to the senator.
Okay, and then so what do people need to do? They say, for example, somebody has entered into one of these safety agreements with the OCS, and they've been wronged somehow, and they know they've been wronged. So they need to fill out the worksheet, or does anybody involved with OCS whatsoever need to fill out this worksheet?
Anyone who has a contract with OCS, I'm not sure that you would want, anyone who has had an experience with OCS, and even if it's positive, we want to know the positive ones as well, because although I have not seen any that are positive or heard about any that are positive, there is a percentage out there who may be grateful. So we always have to remember there's an other side to every story. And the senator also made that very clear today. So they're going to doubt our word unless we have the information to tell them this case number is reflected in those numbers. So we need to give the commissioner and the governor and the senator all this information so that they can verify and validate it.
Okay.
And once it's verified and validated, then we have the 5 recommendations for action that we believe need to be taken.
Okay, can you tell me the commissioner's name and the senator's name and whoever else you just mentioned? There were three people that need the focus of this.
Okay, so Governor Dunleavy, Commissioner Crum, and Senator Shower are the 3 people. And I have also spoken personally and privately with another senator with my senator and my representative to tell them that this is what I'm involved in, and I hope you plan on paying attention to it. And they were very excited to learn that there's an actual effort out there that is grassroots and also willing to prove their case.
I interrupt for a minute.
Okay. Why don't we open it up for a minute for questions, but make sure they're pertinent to the worksheets, and then we definitely need to cover, Catherine, how people get a hold of these worksheets and where they send them once they fill them out.
You know, we do have them on People of Alaska, and that is a private Facebook page. So if someone comes into People of Alaska, they're asked, why do you want to be here? And so if someone just says that they're an Alaskan, that's not going to get you admission into People of Alaska. We have people who have been extremely traumatized and do not want their information shared outside of People of Alaska. And so as representatives of People of Alaska, we definitely need to know the information, but we don't have to share the information, their personal information. We just need to quantify their experience rather than the actual story.
Okay, but they still need to fill out a worksheet, right?
Right, and the worksheet is a downloadable file in People of Alaska. It's in the first 3 announcements as you come into People of Alaska. It's also stored in a sidebar where you can go from the pictures to discussion to something, and there's a line that says files, and that's where the file is for People of Alaska's information gathering sheet.
Okay, or they can email you and ask you to email them a worksheet.
There is an email address in the announcement for downloading and who to send it back to or call and contact.
Okay, but what I'm asking you is, are there very many people on People of Alaska who have downloaded the form?
It is my understanding that we have more than 100 forms out at this point.
Okay. And then they email them back to the address that's on the form.
It's not on the form. It's in the announcement.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And the reason I am so I've been threatened for my work with this organization. And that's why I'm so careful about, well, first of all, the email address is extremely difficult to have people write down the first time. This email address is difficult to share. But I think you mentioned you have a plan for maybe helping us with that?
Absolutely, we do. We do. I'm going to open up the floor to questions really quick before we go into that part of it. But just, in case people want to know just that one piece, it's email taskforcealaska@protonmail.com. And that is TASKFORCE, Alaska, ALASKA, @protonmail.com. That's an encrypted email address. So
Could you say it one more time?
Yes, taskforcealaska@protonmail.com.
Thank you.
Did you get it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So and just email that one, and I'll send you the form, or someone will send you that entity will send you the form. Now, so Catherine, can we open it up for questions for what's been covered so far?
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
Robert Van Busker. Can you hear me?
Yes. What was your name?
Van Busker.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll try to make this really quick. So, is this only for OCS? Because I have 4 children, through divorce, my two older children was outraged. They ran away from their mother when she was granted interim custody. Did a bunch of claims about me. I quickly proved all those lies. My question is does this will this work for the court system as well? Because the judge is friends with my ex's new fiance, and OCS made the determination immediately that I get my two older children back because they gave me a hair follicle test and quickly realized that I wasn't on any drugs. I don't have a record. And so the judge is the one, even though OCS is supposed to have the final say, she stops them from allowing my kids to come home. Is this something that will help through the court as well?
It can help in any of the branches of government. So what you can do is send your, just send an email to Task Force Alaska at protonmail.com, and then that entity will help you with your situation, provide you with the information that you need to take it either into federal court or into a petition of redress in the legislature, to the Congress, the United States Congress, because claims are being taken now, and it's called right of redress if you look in the First Amendment. So yeah, Task Force Alaska at protonmail.com can take that, and then Catherine, you can answer as to whether or not it would be helpful to have him fill out a worksheet.
It would be extremely helpful because OCS is involved. They did test you, and the court ignored you. So that, even though OCS was supportive of you. So that's a whole nother issue, but just having that information and being able to add it to the quantified number of people who have been adversely impacted is important. If it's gone all the way to the court, you actually can hire a state public defender to defend you, and that is why the 53-page analysis was even written, because the Alaska public defender asked for a review of the case by that social worker. So there are good Alaska public defenders who will defend you if you are in the right or not.
Okay, and then just very quickly to interject on that one, if you don't want to hire an attorney or work through an attorney, you have the right of redress. And we'll talk more about that. We'll probably talk more about that on next week's show. We'll talk a little bit about it in a few minutes, how you enforce and stand up on your right of redress. But if you just email Task Force Alaska at protonmail.com, we can send you the information you need to carry this out.
I know it sort
You're
of goes.
cutting out a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I was a foster parent and adopted 3 children. I had other foster children in my home, and this has just been the outrage. This is a very big deal, and there has been a lot of illegal activity done by the judge. She even admitted it. So yeah.
Well, and I think that's the very first step, is getting these worksheets done so that there can be a statistical analysis that will, or a numerical analysis that will impress the folks in the legislature. And so either way,
Catherine, more importantly, they will free the commissioner's hands to take action.
Okay, so it's this analysis is really important. So you can get the worksheet in the Facebook group, People of Alaska, or you can just email the task force and that'll come directly to you.
That's a huge blessing, Catherine. Maria, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Okay, are there other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hello. I'm wondering if this group is involved or knows about E-Clause.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is a direct steal from what E-Clause is doing, and we always promote Chris Hallett and Kirk's Law Corner and David Straight videos because those three guys are all working together.
What about Pendergrass?
Yeah, Kirk Pendergrass, that's Kirk's Law Corner. Yep.
Okay.
And we're learning directly from them, and also the presidential executive orders on cleaning up the executive branch of government. There are several executive orders out there where he asks for help, and that's what the task force is designed to do.
Yeah, the pedophile. There's a congressional task on pedophilia right now that Timothy Holmseth is heading up.
Yep,
right?
and it's actually, I'm not sure about that. I know about Timothy Holmseth, but
it's
kind of hard to navigate those waters from way up here in Alaska and meet those people and look them in the eye and find out who they are. So this is just created directly from our knowledge of what's going on with E-Clause and the executive orders, and it's just a grassroots, private, volunteer effort to help parents who've been wrongly deprived of their parental rights.
Right, and they have a lot of good information, especially at this Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. They have a lot of info, and so does Phil McConnell.
Well, and this is not this. There is also an executive order on human trafficking.
Right.
And I would say that the fact that this ASFA, the enabling legislation that led to the creation of child welfare services, as it was revised in 1998, has caused a lot of the problems and a lot of the abuses, and it's created a money game. And
right.
I think it falls under human trafficking because the states are making a tremendous amount of money off of removing children from their birth homes.
They're making even more money when they sell them.
And that I don't have direct knowledge of that evidence, but I think we'll be getting that evidence.
I have a story I could share with you about what their intentions are, because I was lucky because they didn't get me because I'm raising my granddaughter. But I wanted help from OCS to get custody and things like that, and I tried to work with them. But you know what they really wanted to do was get my daughter back involved in my granddaughter's life and get her visitation rights. They never addressed any of my issues. They were only interested in getting her back united with my daughter, who's a drug addict. So, yeah, that's all they care about. But thank God they didn't help me, and I'm not involved with them anymore.
And you are here in Alaska?
Yes.
Can I ask what area of the state you're in?
I'm in Anchorage.
Anchorage, okay.
But I worked with Wasilla and Anchorage on this little deal. They're both horrible.
Well, I really appreciate your being here and helping out with this issue. Can I ask if there are any other questions right now for Catherine, or if Catherine, if you have more comments?
I really don't have more comments. I really am begging people to please fill out this form, because if we can prove that this is a consistent pattern in OCS's dealings with parents and families, then we can help the commissioners and the governor and the senators to help and stop what's happening. We have recommended that they eliminate OCS's involvement in family investigations and casework, and we have suggested that since they are paying for several nonprofit social workers jobs and health insurance, they could use those services to have family social workers, degreed and experienced family social workers, to serve as caseworkers in OCS.
They cover the investigations if OCS wasn't.
Can you repeat that?
Would be doing the investigating process if OCS was not involved in that portion.
The social workers, there are family trained social workers. They specialize in family matters, and the social workers' documentation of just one case made it clear to me that there is not a knowledge of families in OCS.
I understand that, and I agree as well. I've been involved with this for 10 years. My question is who would investigations if OCS, if it was taken out of their hands to do the investigating portion?
The state would either contract out or work with existing nonprofits that they fund to have family social workers doing the investigations and the casework. The biggest issue in that whole 53-page document was that this family should never have been separated.
Okay, so bottom line is that these worksheets need to be filled out, and this is what's going to give, you believe that's what's going to give the HHS commissioner the impetus to act on behalf of the families.
The numbers.
Are you still there, Catherine? I guess we lost her. She should be back in probably. She probably has to do what we all did. I have just wondered, since Tammy did these hearings all throughout the entire state, she went to every area of the state. She came to Fairbanks. I left after 6 hours of testimony, and people were only given, it was only about, 5 to 10 minutes per person. So there were lots and lots of people filling the assembly chambers. So after a state representative takes that much testimony throughout the entire state, why doesn't this HHS commissioner have the impetus to act anyway? Why isn't he aware of that testimony? And even if it is several years old, the OCS hasn't changed its best practices since that time. And what I believe that is really going on is that nobody has gone to the state with a claim of wrongdoing and explained to the state how one of their agencies has harmed their family. And so that's what I believe needs to happen. And we did get some confirmation of that recently. Are you back, Catherine? Do you see her? No. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go a little bit more talking about what the task force is going to do and what that what that process is going to be like. Is that you, Catherine?
Hi, Maria. Maria, I got back in. I'm sorry, I got disconnected. This is Catherine.
Okay, continue. I was just asking you. Basically, it's really hard to understand after hundreds of hours of testimony. Okay, well, it's probably not hundreds of hours of testimony, but hundreds of different unique families testifying in front of Tammy. Why doesn't the Commissioner of Health and Human Services have the impetus to act?
The testimony, okay, I can tell you why I'm not confident of using that information, and the fact is that this is eating into my life, and those hours and hours of testimony in several places, I do not have the time to do this in a timely manner. Having you provide me the information so that I can just quantify it so that they can move forward, because as the Senator said today, individual stories, even if it's a mile high, you're asking for a lot of paperwork to make determinations. If you have the same story over and over again, which there are a lot of similarities throughout all of the stories, and that's why we decided to quantify it.
Okay. All right. I'm starting to catch on to what you're saying, and I'm going to take a different approach. And I think it's going to have to be this two-pronged approach. You're going to go with blocks of numbers and statistical analysis, and I'm going to go with this entity that's been created under the Presidential Executive Order is Task Force Alaska. The email address to get a hold of it is taskforcealaska@protonmail.com. So here's the whole process. And maybe you'll notice as I go through this that this is going to put the parents in the driver's seat. They have full control over how this process works. Nobody else is taking control of their family. So this respects parental rights and your constitutional rights, your common law rights, however you want to look at it or term it. This basically starts out by upholding your rights and respecting your rights. So the first step is to decide if you or your family member has been harmed or injured by actions taken by any state of Alaska agency. That could be OCS, that could be some other agency of the state. If so, send an email to that effect, or just send an email address to taskforcealaska@protonmail.com. You don't have to include any personal information. In fact, you can send an encrypted email address if you want. You can go to protonmail.com and get an encrypted email, a free encrypted email for, in about 5 to 10 minutes. So if you want to send an encrypted email address, do that. You don't have to include any of your personal information, but just tell us what it is that's going on. Okay, you'll receive back, in the case of OCS, you'll receive back a worksheet and the information where to send it so that Catherine gets her quantifiable evidence. You'll also receive a control number. And rather than taking your personal information, we'll just only be working with control numbers. We don't have to know anything about you. We just want to start getting the process down. So you'll receive the worksheet from Catherine and a control number. And then we'll have that control number and that email address linked. You'll receive all the information from the task force that you'll need to file your claim of redress, either, like I said before, either in state of Alaska as a petition for redress of grievances, or in the federal legislature, or as a federal claim. So that's the basic process, and we're not talking about hiring an attorney. We're talking about doing all of this based on your declaration of truth. So it's basically going to revolve around your statements about what happened to you, when it happened. It's basically a timeline of the events, and how you've been harmed, how you've been harmed or injured by actions taken by a state agency, and then that will form the basis of your claim of redress. Are there any questions on that process? Okay, well, if you have questions, send an email to taskforcealaska@protonmail.com. The state of Alaska legislature has never taken claims of redress. But I have a legal determination that was made by the legal department of state of Alaska a couple of days ago, and they confirmed, yes, you're right, as an Alaskan, as one of the people of Alaska. You can read about that in Article 1, Section 1 of the Alaska Constitution. That's available online. And they didn't make any kind of an effort whatsoever in the state legislature to say that you can't do that you don't have that right, that we don't have that process. They confirmed that this was absolutely due you, and that what I believe is that's the whole reason the legislature meets, is to take your petitions of redress.
Amen.
There's all, yep.
It's been done. It's not for the same reason.
Go ahead. I'll take your comments.
It's been done here in Alaska before, using the redress, but not for OCS, but other things.
When are you aware of that's been done?
The Alaska Natives settlement.
Okay, is that? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They did a redress on that Claim Settlement Act 20 years after the fact.
Is that in ILCA under President Carter?
That's ANCSA, Maria.
Under Nixon.
Okay, all right.
ANCSA.
And they did it.
It was under Nixon. It was ANCSA.
ANCSA, okay.
But they did use a redress. Yeah.
And was that redress in U.S. Congress, I would assume, if it was a federal treaty?
Hang on, I don't know that part.
Okay. And
it was
because
it was federal, yeah.
Should have been a federal redress in the Congress. That's what you'll find out. Whenever I announce these shows that we've been doing, if you're on our email list, you'll get links to E-Clause, to Chris Hallett's E-Clause, and he's talking about petitions of remonstrance. That was in the show announcement for tonight. And what Chris has been able to do is discover that the legislatures, most of the legislatures, operate their uniform rules. For example, in Alaska, we have uniform rules of procedure for the state legislature. But the basis for that, those uniform rules being created, is the Mason's Manual. So Masons number 148, subsection 3 and 4 is the reference point the clerk's office gave to me the other day after quite a bit of research, and recognized that that was part of their rules for proceeding as a legislature, part of their uniform rules, is the underlying Masons Manual, section 148.
Your only Son, your perfect one, spotless and true, the match of you. You sent him in to bear our sin, the whips and scorn, the curtain torn. How did it feel to let him go, to face the death that we all know? Yet all you said, lest faith grow dim, this is my Son, listen to him. We don't deserve the half the tithe, the 100th part of your whole heart, yet you give all and always will. As we recall, remember still, how did it feel to let him go, to face the death that we all know? Yet all you said, lest faith grow dim, this is my Son, listen to him. What heights of love no song can tell, nor yet again the depths of grace that plunge our sin to lowest hell and lead us to your dwelling place. How did it feel to let him go, to face the death that we all know? Yet all you said, lest faith grow dim, this is my Son, listen to him.